Hello and welcome to another edition of Buc'n Across the Buc'n Pond. I'm your host, Coach Slick. We're going to talk all things Buccaneers. I do feel a little bit raspy. I got a bit of a cold. It's hanging around that. In the UK, this is what we call flu season. So yeah, we feel a little raspy. My son's probably passed it on to me already. But hey, we're drinking. We got a nice little number here. We got a bit of white rum, pineapple juice, orange juice, lime juice, and a little bit of love. And a little bit of coconut, says the echo behind me. Anyway, our Tampa Bay Buccaneers prevail against the Atlanta Falcons 21-15, and it was a lot tighter than we expected, for sure. It really was. It's not what we expected. We had dominance. We had controversialness. I don't know. I put up a little video lately. Greg Olman of The Athletic. Big shout out to Greg Olman of The Athletic. Great guy who gets us our Buccaneers news fresh from the mainland, fresh from the Bucs itself. Big shout out to you, dude. He got a video of Devin White basically saying his team got bored while they were imposing their will on a team and they got complacent. That didn't wash with me. It did not wash with me. I want my Buccaneers. If you're going to do an interview like that, I want you to turn around and say, yeah, we got complacent and we allowed them back into a game and we struggled to get back into it. Don't tell me you're bored, because it doesn't sit right with anyone. You're being paid to play football. You're playing a kid. You're playing, and I know you've worked at this all your life. I get that. But you're playing a kid's game that all of us dream we wished we could play. Me included. And all I can say on that is, dude, put a bit of respect on it. I get it. I get that you're beaten down on a team, but 21 points in this day and age in the NFL, it's not enough. This is why we have these comebacks. This is why we keep hearing it. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They've made a meal ticket off it of going, oh, we're not going to win the game. Oh, guess what? I'll just sip this and we'll win it. In this day and age, you can't rule it out. You only have to blink, and in 5 minutes, your team has picked off a ball, ran it in for a touchdown, got a free and out, and now driving the ball down the field to bump in 15 points in the space of minutes. So let's not talk about that. Let's not get complacent. I get that teams take their foot off the gas. I get that there's complacent play call, and it's not all on the defense. It's not all on the defense, because it's on the offense too, because they went free and out 3 times, not 1, not 2, but 3. Under 30 seconds, and about under 2 minutes. Is that good enough in the fourth quarter? No. We had to be bailed out by a bull jive call. Now, hey, I get it, because I remember this little bad boy come up. We saw this and this, and then we went back to this. This is a guy playing the ball, playing the receiver, not looking back, impeding a receiver's ability to catch the football before the ball has arrived. You can play it, but you got to let the ball go in that hands area. That's the difference between an incompletion and a defended pass than pass interference. This is textbook pass interference. Yes, I know I have a still. It's not real time. I get it. But I'm telling you right now, Atlanta Falcons fans, would you feel more hard done by that terrible passing, that terrible roughing the passer call, or would you feel hard done by that? I'm telling you, if you gave that, most Atlanta Falcons say, yeah, don't like it, but it's part and parcel of the game. It is what it is. I think that people will be arguing against it, and there always will be. Now, my next guest, if he does come in, I don't know if he's in yet. I will have a little snoop. He's not in yet, so hopefully he'll be coming in. He was in last week and discussed about his Atlanta Falcons. He's from Savannah, Georgia, and hopefully he'll be coming in to join us, Mr. Anthony. So if not, we'll just power through as we always do. But our Tampa Bay Buccaneers prevailed. We put a win in the win column where it needed to be, which is way, way more important than anything else right now. So if it looks like I'm groping the screen, I'm actually just checking for notifications. So I'm not groping my screen. I'm not. There we go. That's all the love you get. But the Buccaneers they say don't give no quarter. The Bucs gave up the fourth. The Bucs gave up the fourth big time. We gave up 15 points in the fourth. And we had to get bailed out. I don't like that. That team played too damn well to have that happen. And this is what happens when you play close games. This kind of stuff can turn wins into losses. You have Scott, I can't remember, I think it's Scott Hansen who does Red Zone, the witching hour, where wins become losses and losses become wins. This is that point. That's that fourth quarter where things can go a little crazy. The Buccaneers got away with one, and I think deservedly so. We were the better team. That scoreline does not reflect the game in the slightest. And I said this in the past. The scoreline that we had against the Kansas City Chiefs did not reflect the game at all. Like 41-31. Nah, it looked more like a 21-41 to me if I had to guess. But that's near here nor there. Buccaneers get a W. Mike Evans slinging them. And here we are. So, Bucs Nation, I ask you, was there any point in that game where you felt, damn, now we need to batten it down? Or were you always cool, too cool for school, chilling out, going, yeah, we got this. Or you were a bit like me. I was a little bit panicked. I was like, we should not be allowing this team to have this much success this soon. The run game hasn't been the best in the last two games. In the last two games, we have coughed up some points. Coughed up some yards. Now, I don't tend to put running quarterbacks. I don't like their yards because sometimes they're impulsive yards. It's not like it's a designed run play. So personally, it's not really something that I really want to tack on. But at the end of the day, the Buccaneers look like they gave up 50, gave up over 100 yards rushing. And that's not good enough. This is a team that prides itself on the run, and we just haven't run the football very well. But let's talk about the meme news. Let's have a little talk about our meme news. The news from the meme, from me to you. I went around and we just saw a little bit about this Thursday night football. Yeah. It's not standing pretty right now, is it, guys? It really isn't. Al Michael is literally roasting Thursday night football while he's live on Thursday night football. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love this. It's almost like a survival of the fittest kind of vibe going on here. I mean, it's mean, but it's kind of true, you know. And we'll get to the Steelers in just a small iota. Unfortunately, it's true. I'm sure Dallas Cowboy fans are freaking out over it. But there you go. That's your meme news. That's it from me, from the meme news. See if my guy's coming in. Nope. So I'm on my own. I will just unpack this game a little bit more and see where we got to. So let's have a little talk about that fourth quarter action. So they go into the fourth quarter. We punt 42 seconds, guys. 42 seconds. The Atlanta Falcons get the ball and they run 7 plays for 2 minutes and 2.5 minutes. We then get the ball, 4 plays, 3 and out, 36 seconds. That doesn't sound like a team that's trying to burn the clock. Atlanta gets its touchdown in 13 plays and 5 minutes and 11 seconds. The Buccaneers end up killing off the game with a 4.5 minute drive for 14 plays. aided by a few penalties that got us there. And that's neither there, that's football. Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about in this is officiating. Being an official is a tough job. It really is. We can always criticize them because, well, when they make a call against us, we don't like them. It's that simple. But to be I hated doing it. I've done it in the past for football games. Because if you've got a level 1 coaching thing in level 1 coaching level in the UK, you can technically call a game. And yeah, I don't like doing it, but I get paid doing it, which is nice. So I'll do it on occasion if I'm asked very politely. But hey ho, it is what it is, and it's a tough position because you do not want to. You have to explain yourself all the time because everyone wants an explanation. Everyone wants an explanation, textbook or otherwise. And sometimes you just gotta. Sometimes you get things wrong. And officiating crews do that. Now at the highest level, because I'm just some dude helping out my varsity team or my college team or a local team because they don't have any officials. Obviously, when you get to this level, you've got to know some stuff, yeah. But we know deep down that there's probably somebody on the field that doesn't have hands on, that is holding, that doesn't get called. We know there's defensive holding that probably won't get called. We know there's offensive and defensive pass interference that won't get called. That's a fact of life. That's going to happen. It's when it's so abundantly obvious that we get upset. Like Atlanta Falcon fans being upset over that fact that Tom Brady Grady Jarrett got a rough in the passer call. And I agree with it. I wholeheartedly agree with it. What I don't agree with was what happened to our wide receiver in Scotty Miller. That was clear textbook pass interference. The guy shoved the guy out of bounds before the ball even got remotely. The ball was still in the air. That is textbook. And the irritating part is you can see the official right in front of him. You should see that. That guy's not looking for the ball. He has no intention going for the ball, and that's fine. But he's interfering with the player before the ball arrives. You can do what you do. When the ball touches as soon as the ball becomes in your plane, it's like, so he stood like this, and you're over his shoulder. You can put your hands up and play it. You can put your hands in front of his hands. You can, if you really want to, hook a hand down as that ball arrives. That's perfection. No one can argue it. What you can't do is barrel yourself into somebody, and yeah, he still caught it. And you know what I heard? And this is the news. Uncatchable. Oh. Well, try telling the defensive player that. Try telling the defensive player that he didn't need to do that. I'm telling you right now, if a defensive player knew the ball was uncatchable, he ain't going to do what he's going to do. So he still did it. That's a fact of life. I've had this explanation from referees when I've done this in the past. I said, the ball was uncatchable. And he went, that's irrelevant. You stopped him from making any sort of play on the ball. You didn't allow him chance. You pass interfered with a player, whether he was illegible, or whatever. He still had an opportunity. He still could have done something. And that's what they look for now. It's not what the resulting play is. It's what you did to affect the play. So here we go. That's what it's about. Referee decisions can make or break a game. The referee in this game in particular was really, really poor from the get-go. From the K-Dot and first down, that wasn't. From the And it, like, I'm only looking at stills and what I saw in the game. It looked like a first down to me from K. Dalton. And it's the same with Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette was over that line. He was clearly over that line. And then they pushed him back. His forward momentum took him over that line, for sure. For sure. Then we had the Mike Evans touchdown that was ripped off. Look, hey, that one didn't hurt because we got the touchdown anyway, but it'd be nice for Mike to get his tutties in. You know, it's always good to see our boy, the star guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, doing his thing, and the most disrespected wide receiver in football, disrespecting high-end wide receiver in football. But that's here nor there. But then it's the call that the roughing the passer call on Vita Vea. Come on. Was that really roughing the passer? No. And I completely agree about the Grady Jarrett one. However, I have a feeling, and this is just a gut feeling, that they saw the call that they got wrong on Scotty Miller. We need to do something about this. And yeah, there's the Tua thing one. We'll get to Tua in a minute. But if you've made a call that you know is wrong in your heart of hearts, you're going to rectify it by maybe making a bit of a silly call. And I think that's what happened. I don't know that's what happened. I'd like to think it didn't happen, but that's my feeling. That's my gut feeling, is that they went, we screwed the pooch on this one. We'll get the next one right. It just so happened this next one killed the game off. So, but the other one would have, if they would have called what they called, as it was, if they called that PI, that game was done. It was done. And that's it. So my guest is telling us that he's running a little late, and he will be joining us shortly. So I'm just going to keep going, and we're going to keep previewing or reviewing the official review of your Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons up in Raymond James Stadium this Sunday just gone. And yeah, it was not the prettiest ones. I thought this was going to be a blowout. Once we got to that halftime, we score as soon as we get the ball back. And I'm like, okay, the Buccaneers are going to bosh 2 touchdowns at least right now. And that Atlanta Falcons defense is legit. I really respect it. Really respect it. What I don't like is our defense giving up a lot of yardage in the run game to no-name running backs. A 4th down guy and a guy from last year. A 4th rounder and a guy from last year should not be making that much noise in a football game against one of the best run defenses in football. And this has been 2 weeks straight. But there's people calling. There's people shouting. And you know who they're shouting for? They're shouting for a boy called Sue. A boy named Sue. Why? The run defense was solid when you had Vita Vea. And personally, I think Vita Vea is being personally targeted. They are using, like, they know what our run fits are. So they are countering it with something else. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. And that's why they're running it up the middle more. They're running it between the tackles. So that means we need to get thicker bodies. We maybe need to go to a 4-4, maybe a 4-2-5 defense. And let me run through what these are. So a 4-4 is a 4-4 stack. So you have your tackle, nose, and your 2 ends. On top of them, stacked on top, in the same personnel, probably the same alignment, probably with a slight shuffle so they can get for vision. They will be 3 to 5 yards off. You may have your two inside guys, heads up on the guards. Heads up on the guards, and then you have what's called overhang, which is pretty much what you do with your 3-4 linebackers. However, that doesn't give you flexibility in the pass game, so you go a 4-2-5, which is where you sub those guys out for savvy hybrid guys. Guys like your Antoine Winfields, who can go and get sacked. And that's where the Buccaneers need to find out what works for them. Because right now, I feel Villa has been targeted. It's harder to double a guy in pass pro than it is to double a guy in run in your run game. Because your run game, you can have three guys and then two guys peel off. So what happens is you have three guys, one guy gets a solid block, and then they peel off to go and hunt linebackers. And I think from what I'm seeing, that's what's happening right now. The Buccaneers need to try and get this thing figured, and it ain't looking good. No name running backs makes me worry what a good running back could do to us. And we got a team coming up who can run the football, who probably will run the football more than they will pass it. The Buccaneers need to be on their P's and Q's. They can't get bored, that's for sure. My personal challenge, Devin White. You got your draft mate, Devin Bush. Outshine him, outlast him, outplay him, outbeat him, out everything him. That's your personal task. Not only that, lead this team to stop in the run so there's nothing there and force a Kenny Pickett or whoever they have at running quarterback to throw that ball. That's what you need to do. That is the keys to this game. Let's have a little look about what this team is doing. Now, I saw the injury report to this game. Damn. So, Akeem Hicks for the Buccaneers is out with a foot injury. Sean Murphy-Bunting is out with a quad injury. Logan Ryan is out with a foot injury. Julio Jones is doubtful, so I'm guessing he's probably not going to play. I'm not holding my breath. Mike Edwards is questionable with an elbow. And everyone else doesn't have an injury designation. That means they are probably ready to rock and roll as it goes. So, here's my thing, guys. Let's look at the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Minkah Fitzpatrick, knee, is out. Pat Freiermuth, concussion, tight end, out. DeMarvin Leal, defensive end, knee, out. Cameron Sutton, cornerback, out. Levi Wallace, cornerback, concussion, out. Akalo Witherspoon, hamstring, out. Guys, if you ever wanted it to get tasty for the Buccaneers, this is the time. This is a tasty number for us. I'm sure Tom Brady is chomping at the bit, licking his lips, ready to rock and roll. Now, I went to the pumpkin patch. I went to the pumpkin patch with my family across the road in a gated entrance. I saw this. He just looked at me. Look at that stallion. He's ready to roll. That is the GOAT personified. And I thought to myself, Bucs are going to be okay. Tom Brady is going to lick his lips. Byron Leftwich is licking his lips. And we're ready to go. But my question is, guys, and this is the thing that really frustrates me to see from Buccaneers fans. How come when the Buccaneers are struggling offensively, it's all Byron Leftwich's fault? However, when the Bucs are succeeding, it's all Tom Brady's success. I hear these things such as, why does Tom Brady have a quarterbacks coach? It's probably the most wasted position in football. Why does Tom Brady doesn't have an offensive coordinator? Tom Brady is the offensive coordinator. Byron Leftwich is just there to be up there. Yet when we fail, it's these people's faults. And I don't like that. Like, if you're going to point fingers and stuff, like, it's everyone. That offense didn't click because it's everyone's fault. And then they know that. Trust me. Yeah, there are times We know that there are times where the OC will call a poor play. There are times where the quarterback executes it poorly. And my favorite thing when people watch broadcasts, I love this. When people watch broadcasts of football, what do? They spy this like guy who's completely wide open, and they go, should have passed to him. What they don't realize is quarterbacks go what these things called reads, and he might have been the last read, which means Tom Brady went back. One, two, three, four, bash. Too late. Because you got to go back to him if they get open. So if someone looks like he's going to squeak open, or someone you're hoping gets open, you're staring at them for too long. That's the beauty of defense. Your goal is to try and deceive the quarterback into what he's doing, deceive his eyes into believing what he's seeing. You're baiting him almost. So I can guarantee you, when you see a single wide open guy, and if you see the quarterback like this, that means he's the last read. Okay? That means he's probably not going to get the ball regardless, unless Tom Brady saw him with his peripheral vision. What I'm trying to say is, don't just judge it because you see a wide open guy. If a guy's turning this way and there's a guy wide open there, he's not going to see him. Should he? Yeah, ideally, he should. Reality is he doesn't. And we live in reality right now. Last I checked. So, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with this Buccaneers football team. The only guys we got out is Hicks, Ryan, and Sean Murphy Bunting, sorry. I do apologize. If, on the off chance that Jamal Dean or Davis are unable to go, it will be Zion McCullum to rep out as the outside corner, and then D Delaney they will activate a Don Gardner. If Ryan and Edwards can't go game day, they will activate rookie Nolan Turner. And then we got a little bit of interest out of this. Not just what I'm talking about now, but Tom Brady got fined. Tom Brady got fined over $11,000 for kicking out at Grady Jarrett, who apparently, and I agree with this, he didn't, apparently roughed the passer. So if you're telling me if someone roughed me, I'm going to probably kick out with them. I might throw a punch. I might get angry. I'm certainly going to be PO'd. This guy is trying to end my career if it's legit. Like, let's go with legit right now. Someone legit roughs the passer, you're going to be pissed off. You're going to be PO'd. So you're going to kick off. And the NFL goes, no, you can't do that. Well, this guy just banged a penalty. Roughed me. And I'm not allowed to react. Where's Grady Jarrett's suspension? Where's Grady Jarrett's fine for roughing the passer? Please. Enlighten me. Now, I'm saying this as in tongue-in-cheek because I know, you know, that was an egregious call. We know that. I just find it hilarious that the NFL decides to levy to give Tom Brady a fine for kicking out a guy who technically caused a penalty on him. So Tom Brady was stood in the pocket looking for his guy, and this guy roughed him, which is illegal. A flag was thrown, controversially or not, a flag was thrown. And Tom Brady kicked out of it, and you're going to punish Tom Brady for kicking out on a flagged play, which was considered on the day, it was considered dirty. Wow. That is such a convoluted message. If I ever did hear one, it's insane. Not a fan of it. So, Julio Jones is out. Is the Julio Jones experiment a waste of time? Should we move on? This was a question that was posed by Big Game James from Big Game Sports Buzz, and I answered him personally back and said, the Buccaneers have invested $6 million guaranteed. So it doesn't matter how you slice it, he walks away with $6 million, whether you cut him today or you cut him at the end of the season. He's $6 million invested into this team. So you may as well keep him. Unless you've got someone who's holding the roster spot that you like, this guy can outshine him 100. And I'm sure there's Buccaneers fans up and down the country, across the globe, could probably find somebody that they think is either on the Bucs practice squad or doesn't have a job that they reckon could do more. What I'm trying to say is the Buccaneers have no reason to rush him, because at the end of the day, he'll be ready when he's ready, and he'll be ready when we need him. Now, my guest has come up, so I'm going to bring him in. Let's bring in Anthony. Anthony Handy, how are you doing today, brother?
I am doing well, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Excellent. Outstanding. Hang on a second. Let's see. There we go. You should be able to hear me a little more clearly now. We want to make sure we come.
I bumped up my volume because I always, for some reason, always have my volume down.
Well, no, I had to make sure I changed to this microphone. I was going through the computer. Sometimes that I get feedback like that. So anyway, congratulations to your Bucs. It hurt me to say that, but
congratulations. I can imagine.
Congratulations to your Bucs. I definitely think Atlanta played better than I thought they were. I'm used to
your defense, like 21 points against a Tom Brady offense that has that many stars is impressive. And I feel like I'm kind of putting my hand, like being patronizing when I say that. And I don't mean it in a patronizing way. I really don't. Because those points were hard to come by. They weren't easy. That wasn't an easy game. It felt easy at one point. Like when we were at when we scored that touchdown, it was like, okay, then the Bucs, I said to you, the Bucs will probably get to the fourth quarter and they'll bang on 2 scores, which will dress up the score for us. And what happened was it completely went the wrong way because the Buccaneers, for some bizarre reason, decided to throw the ball crazy because they couldn't run the football, thanks to your defense. We didn't run the ball. We just kept on doing these passes. And the thing with out the backfield passes is sometimes they go awry. Sometimes they go astray, and they require very finesse skill set, in my opinion. Not everyone can catch those balls.
Right.
And sometimes they go awry. And I think you guys capitalized the way you did. And here's my question for you. Was it pass interference or not a pass interference? The play before?
Well, I don't want to talk about the pass interference. You know the one I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. We talked about it a little bit, but let's unpack this now. And I'm complete agreement with you. It is an egregious call.
Well, here's the thing. I think that those calls, because we saw quite a few of them pop up.
There were some bad calls in that game.
Mm-hmm. We saw quite a few of them pop up in other games as well. I understand. I get it. I get what they're trying to do. But there was no, Tua has an unfortunate accident, and now all of a sudden, if you blow in a quarterback and he's in the pocket, it's a roughing the passer call. Mm-hmm. I think he did everything. He had to take him to the ground because, let's just say he got him around the waist.
That's how I tackle, man. That's my textbook tackle. That is my go-to tackle.
Right.
Get my arms around and just fling them down to the ground. I love that momentum because you're using their body weight to just swing them down.
Right. But
it feels like you're in control.
But here's the kicker. If Tom Brady had rolled over the top of Jarrett and found his feet and got up and kept running, he's not down because he never touched the ground. So he had to make sure that he touched the ground. Now,
you do not need to dress it up to me. I completely am on your side. Personally, I feel that it was a made back call. So they were like, yeah, we screwed the pooch on the call before. We're going to give this one, which they shouldn't have. They should stick to their guns and admit they're wrong.
I
And
hate that. I absolutely hate that with a passion. It's like, oh well, we missed this one, so
give a freebie.
we'll give them a freebie on the next one. I hate that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
You
hate that more
shouldn't.
than anything. But I do think that as a fan, I'm pissed off. As a realist, the defense did stand very stout, but I mean, Leonard Fournette wore him out. And you could tell by the time it was getting late third quarter, fourth quarter, he really started to wear the defense down. It got to a point where it was just, we're going to run the ball. Like you said, we're going to do the thing that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Fournette to the right, Leonard Fournette to the left, Leonard Fournette
It
around
just
the route.
pass here, 100 and 89 yards passing.
Right,
89 yards receiving.
right.
He only got like 50 in the run game.
Yeah, but still, it was those. It was
Yeah,
those.
yeah, yeah. It was decisive. It
Those.
was decisive.
Yeah, yeah. Those two or three when we needed to stop on third down or fourth down, Leonard Fournette, boom, there's the first down, and that was that was pretty much the thing, that the icing on the cake, so to speak.
For
To
sure.
so I think that the Falcons play very well. I think for us, we talked about it last week. I told you we were going to miss Cordero Patterson. I told you we were going to miss him. The one thing that you do not want to do is to give any Tom Brady led offense an opportunity to. You got to be able to grind it out. There's going to be times you're going to have to grind it out on the ground, and not having
Mhm.
Cordero Patterson just completely took that away from us. We did see. I did send you a message during the game about the mobile quarterback. Uh, but
We
then
discussed it, didn't we? I said to him, I'd like to see how the Buccaneers handle a mobile quarterback, and he drummed it to the tune of 60, I believe. 60 on it.
it took him a minute to find his legs, though, because that when I sent you
Yeah,
that text message, he was
yeah. I mean,
yeah, he
I was a
looked like
bit
he
late
was
on it.
dodging fire. It looked like he was dodging firecrackers for a minute, but he finally got it together. So yeah, honestly, I think the Falcons really are. I don't think they're going to be world beaters anytime soon, but I think they're a
You're
couple of
punching
pieces.
above your weight for sure,
Yeah,
and that's good.
I definitely think that they need a few more key pieces, and they could get to the point where if they get a couple more key pieces, and the ownership is willing to keep Arthur Smith around and the coaching staff around, they could get to a point where they could start causing trouble, especially given the fact that with the Buccaneers, you got some aging players.
Yep.
I mean, they're still out there performing at highest level. We talked about that also. There's only 53 guys per roster. What did I say? It was like 1,600 some odd guys playing professional ball in the NFL. So they're still performing at top tier level, but they're aging players. And so the Buccaneers, in a couple of years, you're going to see their young players transitioning in. And then I
Yep.
think that's when you're going to start to see the Falcons on the come up. You might see the Saints back on the come up. I don't
All
know.
comes down to how you draft, really, when it comes
Right.
when you're talking about that for sure.
Drafted
I think the Buccaneers'
free agency.
age group is probably defiled by Tom Brady's mass age.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the Buccaneers' age is like 32, and I was like, yeah, but if you take Tom Brady out, what is it? And they're like, oh, it's 25. It's like, who
Right.
cares? But it's one of those things. Everyone needs a quarterback, and it makes the difference. Like, you can win a game against an elite quarterback here and there. You can pip a game, especially in divisional. We see in division all the time that teams who have no right, absolutely
None
no right
whatsoever.
winning a game, can go and win a game. I mean, we saw last year the Jacksonville Jaguars can go and shut out or beat out a team like the Colts, who were at the time explosive on offense and solid on decent on solid on off defense and decent enough on offense that they still couldn't get the job done. And that could be a mental barrier, so to speak.
Right.
But that was a game that put the Saints into sorry, not the Saints, put the Colts into the playoffs. They win that game, they were in. And it just makes you think, wow, like a team like that can pip a team. And I remember when the Buccaneers beat the Saints before they went into the playoffs, when they eventually lost to an egregious call against the Minnesota Vikings, and we all remember that one. And so that's when it comes to divisional games, it's a bit more. There's a bit more spice on it. There's bragging rights. There's a good vibe. There's like a bit of hatred there. It's been a
Oh
nice.
yeah.
It's good. It's spicy.
Yeah, we talked about that too. You always will see these teams, but it's certain divisional matchups. It's not all of them. The
Hmm.
Falcons and the Saints will bang heads. The Falcons and the Bucs will bang heads. The Ravens and the Steelers will bang heads. The Bears and the Packers will bang heads. But this is definitely one of those divisional matchups where you see these two teams are up and they're hyped and they're ready to go. Those games are the equivalent at the college level of the Georgia, Florida, the Michigan versus the Ohio State, the USC
Hmm.
versus UCLA, and this was another one of those.
So let me ask you, Anthony, what was your favorite? What was your one thing you took away from that game and went, okay, we can build on that?
Defense all day.
Mhm.
Marcus, I actually think that. I think not that I think that the ownership is going to do it, but I think if they can shore up the offensive line, because the offensive line is still very porous. If they can shore up the offensive line, they might be able to get one more year out of Mariota, just in case they're not completely sold on Ritter.
But I do
So
think personally, and just sorry to interrupt you, that I do feel that Marcus Mariota holds onto the ball a little bit too much.
only person that's got him beat on that is Justin Fields, and we definitely saw that Thursday night. Woof.
And I think when you become that player who's got twitchy feet, you kind of know in the back of your head personally, and that's just them, that they can buy a little bit more time. But sometimes that means your blockers have to hold that little bit longer. And we all know holding is going on all the time. Not
Oh,
every single time, but
100%.
sometimes. And then when you're forcing it, even it's 1 second or 2 seconds longer than they have to, that's when those calls are going to get come out because it's more obvious that you're holding. You're holding for a split set, half a second, no one sees it. You're holding for 2.5, you're holding for 2 seconds, everyone sees it.
Yeah.
And then of course sometimes you just let the sack through because you're trying to play honest, and a guy gets licked, and that's the problem. So it's what happened with James Winston. James Winston would hold on the ball forever and ever, and everyone was worried when Tom Brady came here that our offensive line wasn't good enough. Now we solved only one issue really on that offensive line Tom from JW to TB,
Mhm.
and that was right tackle. Not the most scariest position in the offensive line, which is left tackle. Don't get me wrong, the left tackle, it took him a while to get acclimatized to it, but that speed that he gets the ball out makes the difference.
Yeah. And even still, he got banged around a little bit. I
For
saw
sure.
him. I think he's starting. I don't know if anybody noticed. He got up pretty slow after a couple of after getting popped a couple of times. I think maybe
Mm-hmm.
his age is finally starting to catch up with him and starting to show a little bit.
Well,
So
did you see the story? I don't know if you saw the story or saw the. I've not personally seen it, where he turns on Julio Jones and says, "My arm's declining."
no, I didn't see it.
So it's the first game of the season against the Cowboys, and he turns around to Julio Jones, and I think it was when he hit him for that big pass. And obviously they come off, they have a chat with each other. And it's like, yeah, yeah, it was a great ball, man, like brilliant. And he's like, yeah, but my arm's not what it once was, and we know that's going to happen. That's going to happen with time. Like, and this is for me as a Buccaneers fan. When I see that Tom Brady's thrown the ball 52 times, I'm like, well, that's not going to help him December.
No, because
It's
that's
not
when you're really going to need him. You really need to.
exactly. So I want,
They've got to shore up that run game. They're going to have to balance more balanced attack. I know you signed Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady and Tom does what Tom does, but Tom is also 45 years old. I am 7 years older than Tom Brady, and I can't throw a softball 10 yards, 10 yards without
I've
having
never
to put
had
on
the
an
arm strength.
ice pack.
I've always been more. I was a defensive player, so I always liked hitting people. I was like, I can't catch it, I can't throw it. I may as well hit somebody.
Mhm.
That was my vibe. Shed a block and just go hit someone and shout at everybody because I play free safety.
Oh, nice.
I
So
just
you
sit there and go blah blah
you
blah 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 blah.
you were the trash talker. You were the instigator.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes.
You got nothing, baby. I'm gonna be here all day.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go.
Unfortunately, I'd see people like when you're the free safety and your team's struggling, you are the one making a lot of tackles. And I came off the field and I was like at 22 tackles, and I'm like, how did I get to 22 tackles? I was like, no one else is making a tackle. I'm like, fuck. We lost that game a lot. to be said, but it is what it is. And yeah, you never want to see your defensive secondary making too many tackles.
Mm-mm.
I mean, if they do make tackles, it's great because that's what you want, but you don't want to see them making too many.
No, not at all.
I
None.
mean,
It
obviously, it
really.
depends on the scheme. If you're playing a cover two with too high, then yeah, your corners are going to make a fair few tackles because they are the fourth guy. So, but that's neither near nor there. You said you were happy with your defense. I have to say, hats off to your defense because once you guys battened it down, it looked like a real struggle for us, and it was a bit of an arm wrestle to begin with. The Buccaneers kind of got something going. They at one point it looked like they could move the ball at will. It came out of halftime, we scored, and then you guys kind of just dug your nails in, and that's when your offense started to go to work. The problem for me was, I don't know if you heard about this, our linebacker, Devin White, turned
Mm-hmm.
around and said his team got bored. These are his words, not mine. There's a video going up. If you check my shit, I've got Greg Olman of the Athletic, who is the rep for the Bucs for the Athletic, has a video of him saying, when you impose your will on a team and you're kicking their ass, you get bored. And that does not sit right
That's
with
true.
me.
That's true. But that's not the kind of thing you want to say
Don't
in
say it.
public.
Never say it. I would turn around and say, we got complacent. Under the Florida Heat, the Florida Heat was beating down on us and we got complacent. It took us a minute to get back in the game, but we had a come together moment. We rallied, blah, 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 blah. Never say you're bored.
Because that's the kind of thing that can come back to bite you in the ass later,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have a game with a poor performance.
Absolutely. And credit to your fourth round running back.
Oh,
Picked
God.
up some yards.
I
I
can't.
don't know his name off the top of my head. I do
Me
apologize.
either. Me either.
I might have notes somewhere.
I
I did have notes somewhere.
I took none. I was just happy to be able to watch the game because, like
I
I
try.
said,
I try.
we don't get Falcons games out here.
I do post game. So I do try to make some notes. So I've got something to talk about because I did my first post game, and I realized it takes a good while before all the media catches up with it. So
Mhm.
what the websites that I use to track stats and things like that I would just glance at while we're talking weren't updated yet. So it was Bucs versus Atlanta Falcons with zeros, goose eggs on the board, and I'm like, oh my god, what do I talk about? So now I've got to be like way more prepared. I had like just key moments, like this person doing this person doing that, and for me, the biggest thing I found, like even though you guys got an egregious call, refereeing and the officiating in that game overall was poor from both sides.
Oh, I agree with you 100% on that.
That was a
No
terrible game.
question.
There was obvious holds. I mean, there was all sorts of stuff all over. I think the reason it got magnified is because it was officially the final play of the game. Had that happened in the third quarter, me and you would not be talking about it. It's
No.
because it was the exclamation point. It was the dot in the exclamation point, and that was like, oh, the game finishes on that. You don't get a chance to talk about it. Your team doesn't get a shot to make a difference or do something about it, and that's the difference. That's how I
It's
found it personally.
it 100% sucks when you have a penalty that winds up being the difference in the game and late in the game. It doesn't even have to be last play of the game, just late in the game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, late enough that it affects your team that they don't have an opportunity to respond is fair.
Right.
Because you did that was it. That was the game called. But in all fairness, I would say the game would have been called if the pass interference was called on Scotty Miller because it was the play before.
You got your guy Ben Israel does not like
Yeah,
Tom Brady.
he going. We'll get to him. Bless him. Tom Brady is the LeBron James of football, always crying to the rest. Hey, if they listen to you, you're going to stop doing it. That's the
Oh,
way I see it.
100%. Like LeBron James is like This you always see LeBron James like this at least once a game. That's his thing to the rest. Like he's
But
doing that
sometimes
Mad Robert De Niro
hey,
impersonation.
even if you convert 25% of it, wouldn't you do it? Me personally, I've never been a person who talks to refs. I had a call put on me once. It's quite recent, and I came up to the ref and went, "What did I do wrong?" And he was like, "This, and this." And I explained to him what I was doing, and I was like, "Can you explain to me why I'm wrong?" And this is why I was talking about the PI, I got done for PI, and I turned around, well, the ball was unplayable. And he went, "Yeah, but you still stopped him from trying to make a play on the ball." Yeah, but he was never going to make a play on the ball if I left him alone. He went, "Well, if you knew he couldn't make a play on the ball, why did you do what you do?" And I went, "Oh yeah."
You're like, oh.
Fair point. Fair point. He went, "So you thought, hey, the outcome, because it was unplayable, is not the result. The result is you stopped a guy from running his route and trying to make a play on the ball like he should. Now, if he'd never catch that ball and you just went and you knew that, you wouldn't have done what you did. If I turn around to you in advance, you know that play you're going to do in a minute? Yeah. He ain't going to catch that ball because that ball's unplayable. Tell me, you're going to do the thing that you just did?" And I went, "No." And he went, "So there we go. That's why it's a penalty." And I went, "Okay, I'll shut the fuck up." Sometimes that's what you need, is just someone to explain to you, like, I don't understand. Like, there was no way he's playing. The ball was like 2 feet away from his feet. He was never going to make it ever. But he was like, "But you put hands on him and disrupted him." And I'm like, "Yeah, but my disruption made no difference." And he was like, "But you still disrupted him. You stopped him from trying to make a play. That's pass interference. We're not talking catching interference. That's that's different. It runs into the same family, but you pass interfered." And I went, "Oh, okay. I'll shut the fuck up now. I'll just go back to the hurdle now, boss. Sorry."
Yeah. And then you get the fans that are all over the place. It's like, oh, well, what about this call? And what about this call? Listen, let's just be real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a single player. I don't know a single player that's not going to at least try to do something that might help him to his advantage. Because both teams' goal is to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Their
Mm-hmm.
goal is to win the game. You mean to tell me as a DB you're not going to maybe tug a guy's jersey? Now that I'm watching it more and more and analyzing it, it's almost every play you see a DB's got a guy by the back of the jersey long enough until he thinks the ref is looking, maybe 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
paces, or maybe give his arm a little tug, or maybe
Yep.
or the smart ones will turn and face the ball. Will turn and face the ball as they're doing it, because then it's like, okay, they're playing the ball, they're not playing the player, but you're
Yeah. Yeah.
still impeding the guys. You know what I mean? So it happens, and the refs can't catch all of them.
No, of course not. And the that's just the way it is. For me, what I always struggled with was guys with deep in breaking routes. I'd always do like that. My hands would put one in front and then one on their back, and then I'd go like that. And it's so obvious because it look I'm hugging them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my big, like, that was the one I always seemed to bite on, because in breaking routes always scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, because if a guy breaks in and
And he
you
gets
break
upfield.
and you break and he cuts up field, or he breaks in and you bite and he stutter steps back out,
Mm-hmm.
and now you got to play
Yeah,
catch up. You're gone.
for sure. So I always laid hands, and then, like, deep routes. For me, I always felt deep routes were easier to defend. It's that in and out breaking shit that always used to stress me out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, to get back to Bucks and the Falcons, I would have preferred a W,
Of
but
course, you're not
I
going to Anthony. You're not going to convince me that you turned around and went, "Well, I was happy with the loss." And no. You had an
yeah,
opportunity to win the game.
yeah,
You obviously going to feel like you deserve to win that game.
right. I would have preferred a W, but just in the overall scheme of things, I like what I see from the team. I just hope it's not one of these seasons where, and our buddy Sean Spencer, he's a big Commanders fan,
Mm-hmm.
where they have that great season with the new head coach, and they got in all the new rookies, and they might not have been 100%, but they make it to the playoffs and like, we're going to build off of this next year, and then the following year is just toilet water. Yeah, I'm hoping that this is a progression and not just
A step.
Yeah, we doing well this year. We did well this year. We should be able to come back and do better next year, but not actually make any
No,
enhancements to what they had this season for the next coming season.
absolutely.
So
I mean, if I was an Atlanta Falcons, I'm encouraged by the defense. Cordell Patterson is just a absolute beast. You've got a legit wide out now. Or again, rather. And then you've also got a great tight end who can play a little bit wider if he needs to. He can widen out from there if he needs to. I think for you guys, you just need to clean up a few little bits and pieces, and you've got a nice little number going.
yeah, it's just as a I will say this 100 times as a lifelong Georgia sports fan, we've grown used to uh being short. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Case in point, the Braves were phenomenal this year. They just went home. They just lost to the Phillies, and they've been eliminated from National League contention for the World Series again a year after having won a World Series. So we used to it. 2 Falcons Super Bowls, national championship loss, Georgia to Alabama. We're used to it. So it's at that point where we will take this and be like, okay, they're not as bad as they were last year. Let's see what they do next year. Or let's hope that they don't regress from this point going forward to completely bottoming out by the season's end.
I just want to reply to Ben Israel. Tom Brady is a cheater, mate. Hey, if you don't cheat, you ain't trying. You ain't
Listen,
trying.
anytime you have a rule that's made up because of something that you did that was controversial,
Yeah.
that's all I can say.
Like, at the end of the day, Tom Brady's been around a long time. He's a smart individual. I'm sure that he's well aware of what he's got away with and what he hasn't got away with in his time as a quarterback in the National Football League, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure most sports people, rather, is probably better the phrase there, will play to the line. Some people over it, some people less over it. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's just what it is. Sometimes playing to that line or almost stretching it can get that little bit more greatness out of you because you're playing on that edge, so to speak.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald, I always think he's a flag away from being booed out of the league sometimes for some of the stuff that I've seen him. And that guy doesn't get called for some weird stuff. I was told you can't take your helmet off in a football game on the field. Yet in the Super Bowl, that guy whipped his helmet off, flung it to the ground. I'm like, why is he not getting flagged for this?
I think because the referees are afraid he will eat him.
Probably. Yeah, you look good with barbecue sauce, brother. And he's like, oh, we're gone. We're out of here, brother. We're out of here. But
I
yeah,
didn't see. Did he just take his helmet off? Boy, you want to get hurt? I didn't see nothing. And he's got the flag out. He's like, you better put that back.
put that flag back.
That's
You want to
Debo.
die tonight?
That's Debo. Oh, why didn't you say so? Hey, Mr. Donald, you want to put your helmet back on? You might catch a cold. That's all I want
Yeah,
to
that's it. But and that's the thing is you do see players who are in the level of that conversation of great that kind of get away with those calls
Yes.
that most people wouldn't normally get away with. And I'm going to cast my mind back, and I don't remember if this is 100% true or not. I remember Cam Newton got hit in an egregious call, and he said you wouldn't call that on Tom Brady, and the referee went, "But you ain't Tom Brady."
Right.
And I have no idea if this is 100% true. I just remember something. I think it was like 2014, and he was like, "You'd never call that on Tom Brady, but you ain't Tom Brady."
Jerry Rice used to get away with a lot too.
Yep.
You know, the hand fighting that they do down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Rice got away with a lot. Randy Moss got away with a lot. Just in terms of receivers. Then as far as DBs, Dion had more primetime had more than his fair share of flags thrown, but I think that's more so because he was a trash talker. I
Mm-hmm.
think if he was just a kind of a if he was
Put up
just
and shut up.
if he was a just to show up and do his job kind of guy, maybe he wouldn't have got many of those flags. So I mean, I've seen plenty of times. I've seen offensive linemen mug the defensive linemen, and the referees will just stick their hands in their pockets and not pull them out. So
Yeah. And
it,
sometimes you sat there wondering why, like what's going on here? And it's just this when the whole like, was it? I think people are so desperate to find what's the word, um, illicit play in the NFL that they will call anything that, oh yeah, that person plays the referees and da, da, da. So, like if you look at any game realistically, there are calls that people get away with all the time. I think it's just when it's highlighted in big games, and then when you are a big name player. When you're a
yes,
big name player,
you'll get
you're
those
not
calls.
taking. Yeah, you. Sometimes you'll get your calls, and sometimes you won't. And when you get your calls, you will be singled out for sure. It's just the way it is. You will get singled out because you are NFL superstar. You're the poster boy or what have you. So you are going to get called out on it. Because people, at the end of the day, as much as dynasties exist, or maybe not so much these days, because the whole dynasty of the New England Patriots looks like that's just completely fallen off a cliff right now, which is good for the NFL, to be honest. I think I think the NFL is finally going to get to breathe fresh air for a while, but I think that might have just moved to Kansas City, so we don't know yet.
Yeah, but
But
I think people will rock with Kansas City for a little bit. It's just for close to 20 years it was New England, New England, New England, New England.
I mean, any of a Super Bowl, you could pretty much say that they were even in well, any playoff contention. You go from AFC Championship game all the way to the playoff. The Patriots were in the conversation all the way up for 20 years. And I think people got sick of it. And I remember I had a conversation with a friend of mine when the Bucs went to the Super Bowl. And one of my friends isn't a Kansas City Chiefs fan; he's a Jags fan. And I said, "Who are you pulling for?" And we've been best friends for like 2 decades. He said, "I'm pulling for Kansas, man." I went, "Remind me who your team is." And he went, "I'm Jags fan." And I was like, "You are wishing for an AFC dynasty. You know that." And he went, "What?" I went, "You are hoping for an AFC dynasty." No, I'm not. And I'm like, "You are. You have just asked, you have just said you want to see Patrick Mahomes who goes Super Bowl, Super Bowl. That's a fucking dynasty. You are hoping for a dynasty. That means your team will never see the light of day." Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Don't wish on the favorites. I wished on them for the fact that they hadn't been to a Super Bowl for decades. I was like, that's a cool story. Like when I was looking at it from a neutral fan perspective, when I see two teams going to the Super Bowl, I want to see the team that hasn't won it win it, because I think that's a bigger moment than
Oh yeah.
seeing New England win it for the 15th time or whatever time. I want to see a team, because it means so much. It will mean so much more to their players, so much more to their fan base, so much more to the staff there.
Yeah. Philly, like Philadelphia. I'm not even
Atlanta, when they went to
I'm
the
not
Super
even an
Bowl,
Eagles. I'm
that
not
was a
even an
big
Eagles fan.
game.
I'm not an Eagles fan, and I rooted for him the whole game because I wanted to see him
I,
win
I
one.
don't I don't blame you, because it was one that they've been in the NFL forever, and they
Yeah.
never won a Super Bowl. That's terrible stats if you put it in that sense. It's like you've been in the league that long and you've got one. I mean, they look special this year, with yet to be seen
Yeah.
from their
They do.
quarterback,
They
to be
do.
honest.
They do.
But they look legit. They look
But
legit right now.
well, let's just call it what it is, though. The reality of the situation is there are only 32 franchises in the entire league. And
Hmm.
of those 32, only two of them get to even go to the game, and only one of them can win. There's only one team a year can win the Super Bowl.
Hmm.
And they have a short season. So it's not like baseball or hockey or basketball where you
Yeah,
have a season that starts now that doesn't end until in the spring, and you got a team that's out in the front and they're front runners, and then they have a bunch of injuries and they fall back like a New England, it's not like, you know what I mean. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
it stinks, but there's only a handful of teams left, I think, that don't that. What is that? That's me. Sorry.
It's all right, no worries.
I had a tab open, and all of a sudden it just started playing an ad. So I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear nothing, so it's all good. We're all blissfully unaware
Yeah, I can hear it on my
until
end.
you made us aware.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. It didn't come through on anything other than the
Nah, don't worry about it, bro.
microphone.
It's all good. No, I get what you're saying. Here's a question for you. Like, I'm not a big soccer fan, but I've got a question for you. What do you think of the Premier League way of winning a championship? And I don't know if you follow the Premier League at all.
I don't.
Good. No, I don't either, so don't worry. You're not insulting me.
I am one of those. I am one of those bloody Yanks who only watches football when it's World Cup time. So
I like it. That's a very good West London accent, to be fair. I'll give you that.
I've worked on a few of them. I just like, I got this thing for voices. It just they mess with me.
It's all right. I mean, I'll try not to do so then.
My new one is the guys. I guess they call them the drillers or whatever. The guys that do the drill rap. Hey, bro.
Oh, okay.
Those guys. I don't
Yeah.
even know what they are. I'm
Yeah,
working on
yeah.
that one now. So
Okay. So you got a bit of a thing for voices. I like that. So in the Premier League, what happens is when all the games are done, your regular season, basically, there is no postseason. Whoever is at the top is the winner, regardless.
what? So they just play. So that would be the equivalent of if the NFL
But you
plays.
didn't have any divisions. You just play games, and whoever wins out. Now they use points difference. So for the sake of argument, be how many touchdowns you scored versus how many how many points you let in. That would be your decider. You get points accrued based on a win or a loss or a draw, because the draws
Okay.
happen all the time. Which is why I can't watch soccer. I can't watch soccer because I don't want to kiss my sister that many times. Just can't do it. I don't like it. I just don't understand being and this is the crazy thing. You can be a fan of a team in the Premier League that is a poor Premier League team, like a weak Premier League team, and you'll go against the best and you will celebrate drawing. I don't know if I could do that. I'm like, we didn't win. What we celebrating? We didn't
Right.
get nothing.
I see what you're saying. So if I'm understanding you correctly, that would be the equivalent of the NFL going through 18 weeks of 18 or 19 weeks of football, and whoever has
The most.
the most points at the end of the season.
Yeah.
No playoffs, no Super Bowl, no cheesy commercials, no
Nope.
halftime show
Nope.
that the entire globe is
Nope.
either loved or hated. Just
You just get crowned. And the crazy thing is, Anthony, some people can get crowned in the middle of the season. It doesn't always go to the end.
what is it? Just because they've accumulated that many
If you
points and nobody's
accumulate
going
too
to pick
many
them?
points, you're too far ahead. So which means it doesn't matter what the second team behind you does, they can't win the crown. So you get crowned the winner maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know what the record is on this. You can get crowned the winner of the season 3 weeks before the season ends.
So do they even play the remainder of the season if they crown a winner?
Yes, because there's other things in play as well. So if you are in the top 6, you get to play the top flight of Europe. If you're in the bottom 6, you play in the second tier of Europe.
Okay.
So there's something to play for in the sense, and I believe you earn more money or like the championship purse, so to speak, the higher up you are as well. So there's a bit more, and there's obviously we have relegation as well.
Okay.
So you will go from being a Premier League team to a championship team because you were in the bottom 3, so to speak.
Oh my God! I wish the NFL came up with at least that concept.
A relegation thing.
Seriously.
I think first
The
they
NFL,
need to have a solid foundation for a second league, and then once that's solidified, I think that's a good idea.
the NFL and college football. And college football already has a base because you have the FBS. In Division One, you have FBS, which is the Power 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have FCS, which is the Group of 5, and then you have all of the D1, D2, D3. Right. So
Right.
I honestly I think that if they started doing that, then the schools would probably take their programs a lot more seriously. Speaking of college football, we got your boy Chris Cole.
This is insane.
I just got done watching that game. I'm sorry I'm late. I was watching that game waiting to see what happened. And what wound up happening was Tennessee had the ball and Hendon Hooker had just hit the receiver for a pass with 3 seconds left on the clock, and then the app froze. And by the time I got back to the app to look at it, then everybody was on the field celebrating at Tennessee Stadium. But I saw that field goal kick. Seriously, did you ever see the movie Rookie of the Year?
It rings a bell. I'm not 100%
About the
sure.
kid that broke his arm and all of a sudden woke up to throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, so he got drafted.
Yeah.
So that kick was almost the equivalent of the floater pitch he threw at the. It just looked like it didn't go end over end. It was on its side. It was like it just barely cleared the uprights, but it was enough for Tennessee to knock off Alabama.
That's insane.
Yeah, I wonder what the if you bet, I don't know, if you bet the over on this game, you
Gotta be
probably,
doing well.
yeah.
You'll be doing well. So, Anthony, I got a question for you. You mentioned about American football movies. Which is the best American football movie of all time for you?
I have two favorites.
Okay.
Remember the Titans.
Yeah, that's pretty standard across most people, I think, because it's solid.
And Any Given Sunday.
Okay. For me, I go and Remember the Titans and The Express.
Oh, about
Ernie Davis.
Ernie Davis, yes. I forgot about that one. I
just love the story of it's one that I think it's one that some white Americans would like to forget.
Yeah.
Because it shows an ugly portrayal of that time, which is a real portrayal. Like, it's probably more glamorized, to be honest. It's probably a lot worse than it was in the film. But
I'm sure. Just like 42. I'm sure 42 was way worse too.
Absolutely. I do quite like Dallas North 40 because I think of the comedy value.
Well, if we're going football comedies, then you have to throw in the Adam Sandler version of The Longest Yard
Yeah.
and
sure.
the replacements. Oh, I got another one. Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, of the movie.
Yes.
Not the TV series. And the TV series, I give the TV series props, but the movie, I read the book as well, so the book's pretty good.
I mean, Johnson, would you go to prom with me? It's a 10. I give it a 10.
You do have a big voices, Anthony. That's pretty awesome.
There's another one. It's about football, but it doesn't really follow football per se. Radio.
Yes, with Cuba Gooding Jr.
Cuba Gooding Jr. and Ed Harris.
He was like the unofficial groundskeeper kind of thing, and just
he was the unofficial mascot. And that movie's actually based on a real person.
Yep.
Who passed away, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. Another person of public interest, so to speak, that I am very familiar with because that took place in Anderson, South Carolina, which is right across the bridge from Hartwell, Georgia. My mother's family is from Hartwell.
Okay.
Anderson, South Carolina is on the other side of the bridge. Sometimes we go across the bridge and go, have family cookouts and things like that, family reunions, and you see Radio just walking around. Hey, he's literally. But yeah, but I loved Cuba Gooding Jr. in that movie.
It's a good film. To be fair, there's some absolute classics when we come to American football movies.
Brian's song. If we're gonna go back about
Brian's song with I'm trying to remember the name.
Carl Weathers and James Caan.
Yeah,
was it Carl Weathers?
Yes, I think so. Then of course, Any Given Sunday is a classic in itself with Al Pacino, and it also had a great in it, didn't it?
Lawrence Taylor.
Wasn't James? Give me a second. Cleveland Browns running back, fullback.
I can't remember.
My brain has gone completely blank. He was one. I think he was like the OC in it. It'll come to me anyway.
Yeah, Lawrence Taylor was definitely in that one though. Side story in a movie about something completely different. Well, no, I can't count that one because it wasn't really about football. Football was not the central focus.
What would you say is the worst American football movie?
I can't really think of any, just because I love football. I'll watch just about any movie about football. But do you have any on your list?
There's one that's ringing true to me, but I just can't remember what it's called. I'm not religious in the slightest, so anytime someone tries to insert religion into a movie, I automatically get ugh, because I'm not religious. I have nothing against religion at all. I think it's a beautiful thing. Just don't wave it out in front of me. I'm more likely to enjoy your religion if I just see it and spectate in it, rather than it going, you need to do this and you need to do that. I'm more like to go with the flow, because that's my vibe. It's just not who I am. But if I saw someone having a good time enjoying their religion, I got nothing against it. I work with a Muslim gentleman, Christian people. I'm all down with it. I love learning about the religions as well. I find it fascinating. It's just not for me. Like, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
I got you. I feel you there, man. Nothing but respect.
Favorite movie, Bend It Like Beckham. Oh my gosh, that's a god awful movie if I ever saw one. But to go with sports movies, have you ever seen a film called Invictus with Matt Damon in?
Yes,
that's a good movie. It really shines out the rugby world. And I come from a rugby background. That's my bread and butter. That's where I came from, and that's what kind of introduced me into football, because I was like, I like this, and then I got into football after.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a classic. I love hearing.
I loved that one there. Come Bucca, yes, I love that. It was also my introduction to Jonah Lomu. Yeah,
Jonah Lomu.
He was reading about him and going back. I did a deep dive on this, and I spent hours for weeks looking through his. He could have been, if he came to the United States, he could have been a beast of a running back.
Yeah, the thing is, he wasn't small either. He was like a Jerome Bettis. He was the Bucs kind of sized body. He wasn't just a small guy that has thickness. He was thick in body. He was, I think, 6'2" or something like that. He was an absolute freak of a man. Like, he was the first superstar rugby player. There was no, because at that time in that particular film, rugby had just become a professional sport, so people were getting paid not very much money for it, but they get paid for it. And he was the first, like, kind of superstar. And even to this day, like, some of the highlight reels of him just running through an entire an entire defense or an entire team, where they're literally hanging off of him while he's running and running and running and running and running. It was just insane to see, like, and the poor guy died of, like, kidney failure, which is maddening, because, someone that you'd think that healthy, that was
it was ridiculously in shape.
That's Samoan blood. That's Samoan blood, man. That's just potent. That's why they keep coming into the league, and they are monsters when they come into the league. The Samoans, Fijians, Tongans, they're just built differently.
Yeah, I want no parts of none of those guys.
The thing is that their culture is so simplistic and very, very humble. Like, they're not egotistical, they're not flashy. I mean, they will they'll get there. Like, when they realize that they can make a buck or two, they'll get there. But they're the way they're brought up, like The Rock. Have you ever seen the Rock kind of sitcom that they made?
No, I haven't.
It's quite good to watch, but it's kind of like his humble beginnings as a person. And he got egotistical, and his mom's like this proper, like, Samoan New Zealand woman who was, like, very, like, it's family in Christ, and you do not, like, disdain the family name kind of thing, and it's very more like honor and respect and all that kind of stuff. And that's how they live their lives. Like, that's how they're built. They're built on that, like, kind of vibe. They're all about, like, looking after family first. It's family everything. Like, family is everything to them. And that's why they go and seek their fortunes elsewhere, because they know in Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, there's nothing there.
There's no fortune to be made there. No,
there's no fortune. So they go to places like New Zealand and build a career as a rugby player, and then if some of them are lucky, they get seen as NFL players, and they go to play a bit of NFL or whatever. And some of their families have settled over there, so then you get second generation guys. So
Well,
it's
I think that I think that the schools are starting, the colleges are starting to recruit these guys for football.
for sure. I mean, some of them are just what was it? One of my favorite players in rugby was a guy called Jerry Collins. He was an All Black
Hmm.
for New Zealand, and he was nicknamed the Samoan shotgun because when he hit you, they looked like they ricocheted off the ground, and he did it with a smile. He was just an absolute monster. Bless him, he passed away in a car crash. But Jerry Collins was probably one of the first players I ever watched play the game of rugby, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is just a machine. He just hit, 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 hit. He was nicknamed the Terminator and the Samoan Shotgun. He just went around hitting people.
I tried playing rugby, not like organized rugby, but we tried to, as kids, but
Mm-hmm.
we didn't understand in college. We didn't understand all of. We had a guy kind of try and teach us the rules. I think his ultimate goal was to form a rugby club.
Right.
But we were just having fun pounding the hell out of each other. It was basically what it was.
At the heart of it all, that's kind of what rugby comes down to. And there's a good culture vibe about rugby that I've always loved it, and it's still in the professional game. Like when you see two players get after it, like they're like, there's a lot of tempers flaring, just like in a football game. And when they punch each other, they actually physically punch each other because there's no helmet or anything. So there's black eyes, there's split lips and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And you see on Twitter afterwards, like Jamie George and I can't remember who the other guy was named, Ellis Jenkins. They punched each other, and he went, "I." And all he sent was to this guy who he punched in the face 3 times, and went, "I owe you a pint. That jersey can make you do stupid things." And he
Yeah.
just went, "Yeah, I'll catch you soon, mate." And it was like, "Whoa!"
But
You
that
just
but
most
that's
people.
but that's the thing I love about it though. These guys have beat, I mean, like literally, like they're about to kill each other, and afterwards they're all hugging and drinking together afterwards.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. I mean, you do go after it, you get after it, you kick each other's asses, and then you're sat in the pub with each other having a pint, just chatting like, yeah, oh, you got me on that play, yeah. I'll get you next time, kind of thing. And I remember the first game I ever played, I accidentally knocked out one of my best friends. We were in training, and I must have accidentally kneed him in the temple. So when you hit someone in the temple, it's always lights out. He goes down. First thing I'm panicking because I've never knocked anybody out in my life. I mean, I'm a slight guy. I'm probably like a Buc 20 dripping wet. Um, First thing I do, I'm like, shit, I got to make sure this guy's all right. I pull his gum shield out of his mouth or mouth guard, pull that out of his mouth, just stay with him. I just stay with him. And afterwards, he came out. He went, "You owe me a pint." And I was like, "Yep, let's go down the boozer." And that's all we did. We went straight down. Once he recovered, obviously, he had a couple of days recovery. The first thing we did was we'd go down the pub and just chat about it. We found it quite funny. He was telling everyone, was like, "This motherfucker knocked me out." It's just a different. It's a different vibe. There's parts of rugby in American football though. You can see it. It's just different when there's pads on. There's a certain level of there's less vulnerability, I guess. So like you throw a punch at somebody, you're more likely going to break your hand because you're going to hit something that's hard.
Right.
Whereas rugby, you're probably going to get a punch back because you're going to hit someone in the face and they'll get a return, rather than two guys just KO the shit out of each other's hands because they've just smashed their hands against someone's
You know
helmet.
what? That is something I never understood in football. When these guys get pissy with each other and they start smacking each other in the helmet like that's actually doing something. The only
Yep.
time I ever saw a fight like that where somebody actually took their helmet off and decided to go was
Mm-hmm.
Cortland Finnegan from the Tennessee Titans, and I forgot who it was that he was throwing hands with, but they both took their helmets off and then went throwing hands. And I said, okay, those two are real dudes because somebody really wants to knock somebody out. You
Mm-hmm.
go punching somebody with a helmet on, you just doing that for show. You ain't that mad.
Nah, I agree. I think if I was there, I was never much of a fighter. I was much of a talk. I was a big talker. I mean, I'd never back down, but I was always quite cheeky. A wink and a kiss. Finish everything with a wink and a kiss. And that would rile them up more. And then that's when flags would get thrown up. I didn't do anything, sir. I didn't do anything, sir. I know. Well, why is he getting so mad at me? I didn't do nothing. But when I started playing American football, the trash talker came out of me. I never trash talk. I was very humble when I played rugby. As soon as I played American football, I started trash talking. And then I ended up
Way.
taking that into American football. into rugby, and people were really confused what the hell I was doing. Every time I tackled someone, I'd shout, "No, boy, you don't want no part of this," every single time. And my own teammate looked at me dumbfounded, like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I can't help it. It's just what's kind of geared into me now."
Oh man, well you would have loved it. You would have loved the guys I played. I was stationed right outside of Washington D.C. and the unit that post had a flag football, far cry from tackle and rugby, but we had a flag
Hmm.
football league. Now we weren't allowed to tackle, but we were allowed full contact, everything else, blocking in the whole nine, and we talked so much smack. And I was on the sideline playing the court jester. Hey, if I wasn't on the field, I'm jumping up and down on the benches and go, "Y'all see that? We scored again."
I love that. I love the vibe of American football, which is kind of what we kind of really enjoy about, like, the personality. One of the things that makes American football what it is the personalities on the field. Like, the NFL figured out quite quickly there's a lot of vibrant personality on the field. So what we'll do is we'll mic it up,
Oh
and now
yeah.
we get a big taste of that. It's quite clever.
Oh yeah, watching these guys, like the two guys that the brothers or whatever, and I think they were playing against each other.
Yeah.
And he ran up to his brother and said, "Hey man, say hey to mom. I'm mic'd up." It's like, "What? Hey mom, what's going on?" You know, that kind of thing. Or Shannon Sharp on the side of the field on the phone. That the infamous telephone
Yeah.
call. They're in
Killing the
trouble.
Patriots.
Send help now.
But things like that make a broadcast just like that much better.
It
Like,
makes it pop. And even if it doesn't make the broadcast, the NFL, the Sable family, they were far ahead of their time, because the footage that you get from NFL films, you saw none of that on Sunday. Like you're a lot younger than I am. You saw none of that on Sunday during the broadcast, but then you see these NFL films, like, wow, they were taping and they had these guys mic'd up. They had mics around them, and they were recording all of this stuff. Whoa, that's impressive. That is very impressive. So now it's this huge empire. You have an interesting question in the comments for you there from
oh yeah, I'm gonna go for a couple of these before we gotta go, because I gotta finish up, because I gotta be at an early birthday party because it's like 2 a.m. almost here, so I gotta be up at about 8. So yeah, greetings across the pond, Will the brewer. I hope you brew. I hope it's alcohol that you brew, not tea, because nobody likes to drink tea. Just saying.
I told you I like tea.
Yeah. But would you rather? Oh no, you don't drink
Oh,
it.
that's right. You talked about the thing with the milk and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
You don't do that.
No.
Am I interested in lingerie football? To be honest, I find lingerie football disgusting. I want my daughter, if she plays football, and I know she does, she wants to play safety just like her dad. I want her to keep her clothes on, if I'm brutally honest. I don't think she needs to be subjected to look pretty. The thing that broke my heart was when I saw these women wearing ice hockey masks so we can see how well done up they are, and that's when I went, nah, that's not for me.
Well, there
Just let
was
them. Yeah, they wear ice hockey masks in the
no.
lingerie
I'm saying
football league.
there was a professional. I don't know if it still exists, a professional women's football league here in the States, and the goal was to have wherever there was a franchise to have a
Mhm.
women's franchise also.
That's cool.
The DC Divas. I've actually dated a lady that played for the DC Divas many
Okay.
moons ago. It was like New York, DC, Miami,
Yeah, there
Dallas.
are a couple of teams. I mean, I believe the Buccaneers assistant D line coach, she played for one of those teams.
Yeah.
So there are teams out there. I was just responding to his comment. I find the whole lingerie football thing is disgusting. I don't like. If you want to see a stripper, go see stripper. But if I want to watch football, I want to watch football. And if I want to watch women play football, then I'll watch women play football. They don't need to wear anything different. Like, when you, I say this to everyone: when you become a father or a daughter, things like lingerie football, you just look at it and go, that's just pathetic. Like, come on, why?
It's cash grab.
Yeah, of course, and people pay it because it's for the sake of argument. It's just, it's a novelty factor, and it's like some of those women might not get an opportunity to play football anywhere else, so they take it, and everyone's like, oh well, if they didn't want it, they wouldn't play it. And I'm like, well, if someone turns around and you play the game that you love, but you do something that's a little bit dodgy or goes against your values, maybe you'll do it because it gets an opportunity for you to do the thing that you love a bit more. I don't know. I think people look at it from a black and white perspective, and you got to remember there's a lot of shades of gray in between.
Yeah.
That's just my take on the whole lingerie football thing. I've seen these games, and their O lines are scantily clad women who have no business being O line people at all. Like it's like they're there to look pretty and play football. That's it, or a version of football. That's it for me. But personally, I don't get it. I've been around the women's game in the UK. Highly respect it. So much so that Team USA won the American Football World Cup against England. Well, not England, but Team GB. This about two months ago, and
Nice.
for the UK, we had Phoebe Schechter, who also was an assistant coach at the Buffalo Bills. So
Yeah, I think what's her name? Did did you mention her, the coach from San Francisco?
I didn't mention it specifically, but I know who you mean.
Yeah, I was just wondering if she had played, if she also had played as well.
I think a lot of them have gotten like the funny thing was when they were talking about the players in the game, some of them were like Tom Brady age because obviously you can't take away experience, and some of these women had been playing the game for so long. Like you had safeties that were at like late 30s because they were also coaching and playing.
That's insane. Now that's insane.
Because that's what's available. Like that's the best you're going to get is people with the most amount of experience right now. Any advice for Tom Brady, mate? Since his wife is dumping him. We don't know how mutual it is. I personally don't care about Tom Brady's personal life. It's none of my business. There's no point in me speculating, if to be honest. And I think that's the biggest problem is with everyone in the media is we're all trying to figure out why. Like, who cares? Like, it is what it is. He ain't the first person to go through a divorce, and he probably won't be the last. So let's all just move on, and it'll be a non-story in a year's time.
Yeah, it's all of these guys are human beings. They all have families, whether
Yep.
they're married with children or they have siblings or parents or whatever. And they're just like the rest of us, They're just like the rest of us. If you were having problems at home, like you wouldn't want your coworker sitting around going, oh man, is his job performance going to fall off because him and his wife are going through some stuff? Let the man play ball.
Let the man play ball. I'm pretty sure if anything, it probably might affect his play, but I just don't want to be one of those people who sits there and panicks every time he makes a mistake. And well, he was thinking about this, and he was thinking, I just can't be dealing with that crap. Like, he's a human being. He's going to make. I don't like the whole Madden perspective that that fans have. So here's one for you. Your team needs a running back, right? Just for the sake of argument, not you put your team personally. Let's go and get this guy. And they expect him to play like he's never missed a beat because that's what happens in Madden. And they play at a 92 or they play at this and this. We're in the real world. Some days Tom Brady will not play at the 99. He'll probably play closer to a 72. And there'll be other games where he plays closer to 80.
Yeah.
And that's okay because he's a human being. They all are human beings. And as soon as you see them as pieces of meat, it becomes, they may as well just be pieces of, they may as well be pieces on a chessboard. And that's not what the game's about. The game is about the personality. We all like the personality that we see, the product that we see when we see the trash talking, or we see like defenses when they get their stands, they do like they do their team things, or like the touchdown dances, or like the antics. I love all that stuff because it's personality, it's flavor on top. Yeah, nobody likes to see it done to their team, but at the same time, you've got to respect it because at the end of the day, stop it. Don't like it, stop it. That's always been my thing. I used to hate seeing Cam Newton doing his stupid, goofy crap in the end zone.
The
The
Superman
can't
thing.
stop it. Yeah, and you have got about as much chance of getting with Giselle as I've got meeting Marilyn Monroe. Ain't happening. Ain't happening.
Yep, and Maryland's long gone, so
Yep, there you go. So it is what it is. But yeah, what's your predict? What game you guys got next?
you know what? I have to take a look and see. Give me a second. I'll let you know.
I know we're traveling to the Steel City, so
Let's see. We are playing the 49ers at home. We will be at home tomorrow against the 49ers. So that one's gonna hurt. I'm just gonna tell the fellas to stretch up and lube up real good because Jimmy G's gonna run all up in them. I hate to say it. Then again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I'm always the optimist. So if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, it's going to be a tough game. We don't look like we're going to win it, but you never know. All we need is that spark. We need that one thing.
Yeah.
And it can happen. Like any given Sunday, if anything, that phrase in itself is famous in inspiring hope in a fan base. Any given Sunday.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
And it does. It inspires massively because it makes you believe. Even to me, I can't pick against the Bucs. I will not pick against the Bucs. I'd rather lose. I said to my wife the other day. She's like, "Oh, you're doing all right in fantasy," and I'm like, "Yeah, I am." But I'd trade every fucking fantasy win if the Bucs could win every single fantasy win I drop. I'd do it. It's not even a. Give me a Super Bowl rather than a fantasy championship any day of the week.
Oh, dude, 100%.
I trade it all in. I trade it all in. I don't care about the picks. I don't care about nothing. I can be the dumbest mother truck in the world as long as my team wins. I don't care because I want my team to win. That's why I support them. It's always nice to win your picks, or it's nice to win your fantasy football stuff because it's bragging rights, and that's what it's all about.
Smack talk all day. Smack talk all day. Look, I'll even find something to smack talk about in a loss. Well, you guys lost. Well, yeah, well, your quarterback didn't seem to enjoy them 8 sacks we put on him, even though we did lose.
Yeah, for sure. Are you sure he can walk tomorrow, or he gonna be feeling that loss? His soul can be feeling that loss for sure.
I'm telling you who's going to be feeling the loss. I'm telling you who's feeling the loss right now is Justin Fields. That poor kid got beat up Thursday night.
Yeah. Man, how many times does it take, or when does it get better for Thursday Night Football? Because you're Jeff Bezos and you bought, I hope I pronounce, I don't care if I pronounce his name right or wrong because he's got too much money for me to worry about how I pronounce his freaking name. But seriously, you pay all that money and you've not had one real product that you can turn around and go, well, that was a good game. And they got court gestures on the side now. This guy who does like a wrap-up minute where he tries to tell jokes.
Oh, that guy, yeah, I saw that. That was horrendous.
I just thought it was like, this is meh.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't think that was. I thought like that's some. I thought that was like something that they found on YouTube. That's actually a bit like when
it didn't feel like it was a real part of the broadcast.
When Fox would have Frank Caliendo come in on, like when Fox would have Frank Caliendo come in or Jay Glazer and do their little bit. That's actually part of broadcast. Bring back, if they're going to do that, just bring back the Manning cast and get rid of that guy. If they're going to do that, at least there'll be something that we'd be entertained by. Honestly, luck of the draw is how it's all shook out this year. I think. I mean,
Thursday nights have never been the premier game, really. I mean, you get a couple, of course, and if they're that, that's usually when they pick a good divisional matchup.
Yeah, I think the NFL. I don't think the NFL would be hurt a tap if they got rid of Thursday Night Football. I don't think they would, because they're still the big dog at the top of the heap right now. They're the big dog at the top of the heap.
But is it hard to go put two good teams in like one every now and again? Like,
well, I don't know how far out the schedules are made. I know that you always are going to play the same divisional opponents every year. You're going to play, and then it bounces around. It's like you play your division, and then you play like the NFC East, and
Yeah.
then you play 2 teams from this conference, 2 teams from this conference, and that's how it shakes out, and it's pretty much a few years out. So how are we supposed to know right now in 2022?
Mm-hmm.
When the NFL made that schedule in 2020, they had no clue that Washington and Chicago were both going to just be scraping the bottom of the barrel. It just shook out that way.
That's the thing. I mean, like, you go to the NFL games in London for it is a great example. Is we've always been kind of expecting to get the bottom barrel games, and this year it ain't been that bad. We had the Saints versus, and obviously it was early in the season. The earlier you do it in the season, the less bad it looks as well, because a team that's 2-1, sorry, 1-2, isn't that bad of a team yet.
Right.
So it's quite smart. But we had close games. So we had the best one so far, I would probably say, and I didn't watch it. Usually when we're doing stuff with the family in the afternoon. Was the Packers Giants game. Both teams were going in only
Yeah,
losing a game.
I heard that was a really good game.
Yeah, and it's down to the wire kind of vibe. That's what you want. Then before that, we had Saints and Vikings. I mean, both teams at that point only lost one game, so you're kind of getting something. And then I believe I'll be going to Jags versus Denver. So that one could be interesting.
Okay. All right.
It depends. Jags don't look as bad as they used to. That's because they found themselves a coach, I think, personally.
Remains to be seen. They still got an ownership group. It's just like that team up in Washington that gets a good coach, and then the owner tries. I don't think Dan Snyder can help it. I think he tries to step back, and then he just turns around and does something completely out of the blue.
I don't think the Jags are like that though.
Well, the thing with
The
the Jags
play. I think the problem with the Jags is that ownership likes to play and try and make money in avenues that no one else is, or less people are touching. So then it becomes more controversial. But they've never been known for being a dirty team off the books. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's because their owner was already a billionaire when he bought the team. It wasn't like some guy that had enough money and capital and backers to buy a team.
Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah.
this guy already had money coming in, and I think that might be part of the reason why. I mean, he had other interests as well. Like, it wasn't, so
Mm-hmm.
that's other business interests as well. So
For sure.
when you buy an NFL team with the way the revenue share plan is right now, you're guaranteed to make money. Period.
Oh, for sure.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Sports teams in general always, well, I say always, but should always net you good money, because it's all about the product you put on the field. Like, you look at the Dallas Cowboys; they're one of the most valuable teams in sports ever.
Ever in history, but right now
When was the last time they won a championship?
1996, 97.
VHS. VHS. There are no. I mean, there are Super Bowl recorded DVDs for sure, because someone re-recorded it or remastered it, but there weren't any legit at the time. You want to watch the original tape from the Super Bowl championship? It's going to be on a fucking tape.
Well, I can tell you exactly why it's like that. The Steelers had their hugest heyday, minus the 90s. But the explosion of the Dallas Cowboys during the 70s, the 60s and 70s, especially with the great duel between the Steelers and the Cowboys, that will forever be a huge, huge Super Bowl rivalry. That was such a dividing line that you were either Team Steelers or Team Cowboys, no doubt about it. And a lot of people already were Cowboys fans, period. So I mean, that's
Makes sense.
you've got people now. You have people now like myself that are middle aged that have young adult children who grew up as Dallas fans, because my generation was Dallas fans, and so you now got this new generation, and some of those young folks have kids that are now Dallas fans also. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, for sure.
plus that for some reason I have no idea why Latino people love the Cowboys. I don't care where you go. They were in where were the Cowboys playing? The Cowboys were playing somewhere. Oh, they were playing the Rams, I think it was this past Sunday. And
Yeah,
there were more Cowboys fans at
yeah,
SoFi
yeah. Because
Stadium than there
Coach
were Rams
McVay
fans.
turned around and they said they may have to go silent count because of the amount of Cowboys fans in their home stadium. I was like, oh my god, that's a really bad thing to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah,
You are the current Super Bowl reigning champions, and you are worried about doing a silent count in your own freaking stadium.
yeah, because your fans are being outshouted by the Cowboys fans. And that's not an uncommon occurrence. It doesn't matter where they're playing, they're Cowboys
They
fans.
travel well.
They they travel well, and they're already. I mean, I lived in the greater metropolitan Washington D.C. area for 18 years. For every then Redskins fan that I ran up on, I knew 5 or 6 Cowboys fans.
Wow. So just to get
My
to bring
wife,
up
my
Ben
wife's a
Israel,
Cowboys fan, huh?
just to get to Ben Israel, people in London think. I think that's just the UK. Look, when you're starving, a cracker tastes great. That's all I'm gonna say. When you're starving, crack is the best cracker you ever taste. I'm
I-
telling you. When you're starving, that cracker, you think it's a Ritz. Yeah, ooh, ooh, that's a good one. You know what I'm saying? It's like starving people will think the best. You know what? If I was the NFL, dump the Pro Bowl in London. We would eat it up, and the players would love it because they get to feel like superstars in another country that actually feels like a fucking vacation rather than going to Florida. Perfect place for the Pro Bowl. London.
yeah,
Coin the
yeah.
phrase. Roger, give me a call, brother. We'll sort it out.
You know
There's
what?
money to be made.
But would it get? It still wouldn't get to say it wouldn't get the ratings here, and that's the big thing is ratings and revenue.
True, but I don't. It doesn't matter where you put it. But I think at least you could get you could get English people or British people to kind of buy into it because it's not something that we get to see on our thing. So it comes a bit of a novelty factor. Players would enjoy it because it actually feels like a vacation, like the whole Hawaii vibe.
Right.
A lot of people have said, like Americans have said, when they go to the London games, it has like a Pro Bowl vibe about it because you don't see there's no like distinguished home team because it is just a sea of jerseys of all teams because everyone's got their team, which is why when everyone asks me, is like, what would you do if the NFL did put a team in London? I'm like, so I've got a second team now. Yay.
Right.
I'll occasionally watch them play against the Bucs or play against somebody else so I can watch football. But I wouldn't truly support them. I would just want them to do okay. Or I'd want them to do well, and they'd be like one of those teams like, oh, they're on the up and up. Oh, I'll give them a bit of love, and that's about it. But most people who are NFL fans in the UK already have their team. They already know who they want, and it's too late to kind of make people go, oh, I've been a Steelers fan for like 10 years. I'm all of a sudden going to go to the London Monarchs or whoever, whatever they decide to call them.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. It's not feasible.
And you probably nailed it right on the head. If they decide to put a franchise over there, they the first UK franchise will be the London Monarchs.
Mm-hmm. That's because there was a franchise there called the London Monarchs a few years, not too far long ago. But my point being is also it's the new generation you got to try and get the ownership of. Like you want to get their eyes on what have you. That's I suppose what you're looking at. But the NFL missed a trick when the Oakland Raiders turned around and went homeless, and so did you give me a second? The Chargers when they were all looking for homes. That was an opportunity to see if the London experiment would work. I'm not saying force those teams there, but that was a conversation to be had and go, well, if we put the Raiders in London and see how well they do, let's see what go. Or the Rams. The Rams didn't have a home for a while. They're playing the freaking Coliseum when no one turned up.
Nobody goes to the Coliseum now. People fuss about UCLA not having any fans. It's because nobody wants to go to the Coliseum and sit on stone benches.
No, they don't, because we're in 2022. We sit on a comfortable chair. You know what I'm saying? So, and the thing is, if they put the Rams in the UK, they would sell out Wembley or wherever they decide to put them time and time and time and time again. They would. Because it's a novelty factor, at least for the one time. And at least you get to see, would people turn up for 8 home games? That was the thing. It's like, oh, we got 1 game. Or we got 2 games. Or now we got 3 games. Okay, well, that's great. Now, at one point, we have 4. Okay, well, now we got half a season. brilliant. But now we need to see that sustained growth from one team in particular. So why not go Rams? You're going to play 3 games in London, back to back to back to back, and then you're going to go back to the East Coast, and then you're going to go home. It's harsh, but if that's what you want to do, and you turn around to them and say, if you want to build that beautiful little stadium that you want built, this is. They made them jump through some hoops. How many? how many times they have to play in London? They had to play in London quite a lot. The Rams at one point.
I don't know. I don't really keep track of
one of the rules to host a Super Bowl is you must play and to relocate your team, you must play in the UK. So if you want to change where you're at, you want to change stadium or anything like that, you have to play in the UK. There's one of the and host a Super Bowl. You have to play in the UK. You have to give up something. That's the kind of vibe that they're going with these days.
Well, what that would do is that would probably discourage a lot of these owners from holding these American cities hostage and saying, I'll take my team someplace else altogether if I don't get a brand new stadium.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to reply to this comment, and then we'll call it night because I got to go to bed anyway. But it's around about 2 a.m. here, so all hail King Charles III. No more taxes, mate. I wish there was no more taxes. I'm pretty sure they're taking 20% off me, so I'm not too sure about that. But if he wants to take the tax off me, I'm more than happy to take my actual salary and actually spend it on my family. I'm well happy with that, but that's not going to happen. I'm living in the real world now. Roads have to be built, and MPs like to get paid. So,
parting shot before we shut it down: the absolute irony that the colonies broke off because they didn't want to pay taxes.
Yep.
And then turned around and created an agency called the IRS.
Yes, sir. National Bank, is that?
What's that?
Is that the National Bank?
What, the IRS?
Yeah. Oh no, it's the Inland
Internal Revenue Service.
Internal Revenue Service, yeah. Hey, you got to pay for getting things built anyway. So
I mean, it's like because you get and then it's funny because you have federal tax, then you have state tax, then you have some places have locality tax, like a city tax.
Mm-hmm.
Some places then you have to pay tax on your house, your property, your house, your car, and then on top of all of that, then you got to pay sales tax.
Don't worry, we're all that's what we call VAT. Okay, so this is how it works in England. You get paid, you pay tax on that. You keep that money, you pay tax on that. You bequeath that money on your deathbed to your relatives. They pay tax on that.
Yep, there's that too.
So tax. You don't get to keep shit. Yeah. So it is what it is, unfortunately. But brother, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Never a chore. I always love chatting to you. So we'll definitely have to catch up maybe for the next Falcon game in a bit. So we can have a good chat then.
100%. You let me know when you need me back on. If I'm free, I'm here.
All right, brother. I'll let you know, and we'll see if we can make things play out.
All right.
Look after yourself, man.
All right. Thank you, sir. You do the same. Take care.
And you. Much appreciated, man. Bye. Okay, guys, that was the end of that. It's gone a little bit later than I thought. Always an enjoyable conversation with Anthony, and we can talk a bit of his team, talk about our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's finish up with the history behind this Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Steelers. There's a history there because Coach Tomlin used to be the DB coach, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 01 to 05. He then becomes the Steelers head coach in 07. And there are 2 players on his team back in the day that are current coaches for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers squad. One being inside linebacker Larry Foote, who now is the pass game coordinator, and of course, backup quarterback Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich came out and said a glowing story of how he learned so much from him. He's a mentor and he respects him. He loves him. Larry Foote turned around and said, I got to beat him. I got to beat him because I know when we see each other, we're going to talk a little trash. And I know he's going to be telling his guys, we got to get ready for this team. So I've been telling my guys what he's been saying. I have to go and beat him because we talk so much trash. Now, Larry Foote, who played with the Steelers wearing the number 50, was a fourth rounder in 2002. Played with the Steelers from 2002 to 2008. And then 2010 to 2013, had a year with Detroit in 2009, and then a year with Arizona, and then started joining the BA team, the BA crew, so to speak, the BA crew, while he was with Arizona. He's won 2 Super Bowls as a starter. The guy's a legend, and now he gets an opportunity to show that the student is now the master. So, from me here all the way across the pond, let's go. Let's our Bucs go get some. Bucs on me, Bucs on free. 1, 2, 3, go Bucs.